exciting and very, very important show lined up for you today. We will be talking about the purpose of life, death, the afterlife, and reincarnation with renowned psychotherapist Dr. Matthew McKay, who is also a best-selling author, a publisher, and he has today's show is based on an amazing book he wrote called Seeking Jordan, which actually was born out of a very tragic incident involving the murder of his 23-year-old beloved son, Jordan. And in that journey, he came up with some incredible answers that all of us who are just here on earth are seeking, that have to do with our purpose in life. And so I want to welcome Dr. Matthew McKay. Dr. McKay, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and I also have online my co-host, Kim Michaels, who is a prolific author, but also an expert on spirituality. And Matthew, he does every week a message from the Ascended Masters, and he will join in if he feels like he has something to contribute. But the first 14 minutes, we're going to be talking about the purpose of life, death, the afterlife, and reincarnation. So welcome, Kim Michaels.
Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. McKay, your book has so much information that's so important when you consider that you cannot live on planet Earth without experiencing death. You cannot live here without experiencing trial and tribulation. And since we come here with amnesia, we're just kind of floundering and lost. And as a professor, one of the things that I've had to really focus on with college students is their search for meaning and a purpose in life, and the high rate of suicide with young people in America. So I think that a book like yours really it hits the nail on the head in terms of the hard-hitting questions that young people have about why we're here, and is there actually life after death, and the whole topic of reincarnation. And for someone like you with a scientific background to write a book like this, let's begin with the journey of you writing this book and how this book has affected your career and your personal life.
Well, it's affected me very deeply because it's shifted my focus. I mean, I've been most of my life working as a researcher, developing new kinds of psychotherapies, and teaching psychotherapy, and running clinics for low-fee people who are really needing help. And so my life has been about evidence-based psychotherapies. And this is really a shift for me. When Jordan died, it became just of paramount importance to find him. I think I had those two questions that anybody has when they lose somebody they love deeply, and does that soul still exist?
Yes.
Is that soul with us in some way? And is that soul okay? Is that soul happy where they are? And so those were just burning questions to me after Jordan was killed, and so I set out to see if I could make contact with him. And I found different methods of making contact. It started out with Alan Botkin, who's a psychologist in Chicago, who had developed a method called Induced after-death communication. And it's built on a psychotherapy for trauma called EMDR, movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So I went to see him. And I do EMDR with my own traumatized clients, and so I'm familiar with it. He has a small variation on it that makes it possible to actually have contact with loved ones you're grieving. And I had the experience in Chicago of actually hearing Jordan's voice. He had very specific things to say to me. He had messages for his mother. And I had, for the first time since his death, a kind of a moment of lightness in which I finally knew those two things, that he still exists, he loves us, he's with us, he's looking after us, and also that he's happy where he is. So that was the first step in the journey for me.
Well,
I need.
Go ahead.
Well, but I also needed to have a conversation with him. This was passive. I was simply hearing his voice. It was wonderful. It lightened me. But I also wanted to have conversation. I wanted to ask him questions and hear answers back. And so I had to go on to learn other methods, including something called channeled writing or automatic writing.
Well, I'm familiar with both of the things that you're talking about, and Kim Michaels was the first one to actually introduce me to EMDR, and I haven't, I've been searching around trying to find someone locally who actually does it. But when I read about it in your book, I was familiar with it. Kim, can you say something about that technique?
Well, I had it done by a psychotherapist that I was using quite a number of years ago, and I found it to be very, very efficient. I wasn't using it for the same purpose, but just to see things in my own psychology from the very distant past. And I actually believe I had some insights into past life psychology and had some help with resolving that. So it was very, very good for me.
Well, and Dr. McKay is not aware that we had a very profound experience here in studio with the two daughters of the deceased spiritual leader, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and Kim, who actually takes dictations, or people call them channelings, from Ascended Masters. Elizabeth Clare Prophet is now an Ascended Master, and it was my first experience with this kind of thing. And when Elizabeth Clare Prophet came through via Kim Michaels, the energy in the room, the door opened, I felt her presence, I started crying, and I don't know anything about Elizabeth Clare Prophet, but it was just like pure love that radiated through, and it profoundly affected the two daughters in studio. So when I was reading your book, I knew exactly what you were talking about, and I've had so many deaths in my family, and I had that experience with contacting my favorite sister right after she died. During a meditation she came, and the joy, that just washed over me, and the confirmation, that she was still there was, I think that everybody who has lost someone who's very close to them longs for that confirmation. So I think your book as a psychotherapist is very important in terms of bridging that doubt, that we always have about whether this is real or not.
Yes, there's always doubt, and yet I believe, in my experience, tells me that it's possible to make contact with the ones you love on the other side of the curtain of death, and that it's actually, it doesn't require being clairaudient or having any special psychic powers. There are just very simple methods for engaging in an active conversation with those on the other side. Channeled writing, for me, I learned how to do it from Ralph Metzner, who's a psychologist, a specialist in after-death communication, and it just involves, first of all, being in the same location each time you do it. So it's a place that feels safe to you. It feels you feel centered there. Sometimes it's helpful to have a location that somehow connects you to your past, so that you feel like somehow you're connected to people that you love from the past.
Right.
I use a desk that my parents gave me when I was a boy. You also need a centering device. It's easy to use a candle, for example. I have a candle that my daughter gave me that sits behind a blue glass mask. That holds my attention. You need an object that connects you to the one on the other side, to your loved one. And I use just a little business card that Jordan had when he made it up in high school. So Jordan McKay, CEO, Omega Technologies, and it really used it to get into tech shows, and it reminds me of his humor and his audacity.
Yeah.
And so I have that little card there. And then you need a kind of a process to get centered and receptive.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just a simple Vipassana meditation, just focusing on the breath, watching the breath, waiting until I get to a point where I feel ready and receptive to begin the conversation. And then the conversation begins simply by writing down the question. Whatever the question is that you have for your loved one, write it down and wait for the words to show up.
Yeah.
And usually for me, it's just a single word will start it, and then it'll turn into a sentence, and then a string of sentences.
Well, I can relate to it, Dr. McKay, because I've actually, when I was reading your book, I've actually had those experiences. And, the three things that you just spoke of, I accidentally discovered that with my sister a few weeks after her death. I had her picture on a mantle, and I was doing yoga and meditation with a song from Sonatum Core that I had played in my car the week before she died, when she was with me, and she fell in love with that song. And the song came on, and she was just there. Her presence was just there. I just felt her. And then another time, and I wanted to mention it now because the singer Prince died the other day, and she loved Prince, and I was able to go to his last concert, and I was like on the third row, and she loved Prince, and I just felt her there. She was just so happy and excited that I was there with Prince. So what you just said, I can testify to the fact that it actually does work. And I have sat down with some of my favorite ascended masters when I'm, kind of lost and needing direction. And I'll just, ask a question in meditation. And sometimes they'll tell me, go get your laptop and write it down because it'll be really long. And it just really helps. And I know it's not me that's doing that. And Kim Michaels, I know you use a totally different process, but he takes messages from the Ascended Masters, and you're pretty, actually, Dr. McKay, you'll get to experience it after commercial break. But Kim, can you mention your technique very quickly?
No, it's very difficult because it's very difficult to explain what happens other than I just tune in and then it starts happening.
Okay.
But I also just get words and then it starts flowing after that.
Yeah, because you actually speak the words, and it's pretty amazing to be in your presence when you do it. But as Dr. McKay said, anybody can, has the ability to be able to do this. And that's why I think your book, Seeking Jordan, is so important. It's available in all of the bookstores, correct, Dr. McKay?
That's right.
Okay, and we'll be back after commercial break. So Dr. McKay, please hold on while we go directly into Kim Michaels' message from the Ascended Masters. It's 5.5 minutes long. I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, with Dr. Matthew McKay and his book, Seeking Jordan. And coming up next is Kim Michaels with his weekly message from the Ascended Masters. You're listening to Divine Love Talk, and I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant.
Experience a luxury boutique hotel escape in the heart of Laguna Beach, California, with the finest art gallery, shopping, dining, and nightlife just steps from your door. The heart of Laguna Beach, the edge of the sea. It's the Inn at Laguna Beach. Enjoy our comfortable rooms, blending the style of a timeless beach bungalow with the modern comforts of today. 70 newly appointed guest rooms and suites await you at the Inn at Laguna Beach. Then, relax at the rooftop bar, where you'll indulge in breathtaking views of the ocean. For dining, you'll find libations and local cuisine on the California coastline, including dining at the legendary Las Brisas, a Southern California landmark. The Inn at Laguna Beach. Footsteps from room to village to sea, located in the heart of Laguna Beach. The Inn is within walking distance of all that Laguna Beach has to offer. No car required. The Inn at Laguna Beach, 211 North Coast Highway in Laguna Beach, California. Call 800-544-4479 or visit innatlagunabeach.com.
Hi, friends. This is Larry Manetti. Go to LarryManetti.com to get my book, Aloha Magnum. You'll read all about the wonderful guest stars like Carol Burnett, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, and many, many more. Also, there is an episode guide and my favorite recipes that I really cook at home. I will include a free signed photo with every book. Get Aloha Magnum at LarryManetti.com. Order now. Aloha.
Do you still believe the old-fashioned notion you're free to withdraw your own cash from your own bank? Don't bank on it. Pat Boone here. You know, the truth is, if you have a bank account, you're a target of the government's new war against cash. According to The Secret War, a new white paper from the folks at Swiss America. Get a free copy now. It's a must-read for all of us. The Secret War.
Thanks, Pat. Call toll-free 888-732-7221. That's 888-732-7221.
Every day, governments are moving closer to outlawing cash to create a cashless society. No wonder banks are moving to limit cash withdrawals. No wonder banks must now spy on you and me for the government. Hope you'll take it from me, Pat Boone. You need to read The Secret War. It's free.
Call now, 888-732-7221. That's 888-732-7221.
CRN listeners, don't forget What's Cooking in Wine with certified wine educator and master sommelier Michael Jordan, coming your way every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time right here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. You'll find out about the latest trends in wine, food, and the good lifestyle. And by the way, Michael Jordan can talk to those of you that are really into wine and those that are maybe just discovering wine. The great educator Michael Jordan, What's Cooking on Wine, Friday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific on CRN.
We're back with our weekly message from the Ascended Masters with Kim Michaels.
I am the Ascended Master, Mother Mary, and I would like to tell you that the greatest con ever perpetrated upon humankind is death. You cannot die, for you are an immortal spiritual being. You have taken on a mortal physical body in a universe that seems to verify mortality. But the verification of mortality is not objective. It is created by those who seek to control you by making you believe that you will one day cease to exist, or that you could potentially end up in some fiery, unpleasant hell. My beloved, the reason why they do this is not because they care about what happens to you after you die. They care about what happens to you now and what they can get you to do in this lifetime. This has been done through religion, including the Christian religion, and it is now being done through scientific materialism. You cannot lose your loved ones unless you shut off all contact with them in your own mind. Your consciousness is a continuum. The consciousness of your loved ones is also a continuum. And you can communicate with them after they die as easily as you can do it before they die, if you learn to communicate without words before they die. You see, my beloved, they do not die, their bodies die. You do not die, your body dies. But you, the spiritual being, goes on, and there is no limit to the communication that can take place. I would like to honor all of the people in the scientific field who dare to stand forward and challenge the existing paradigms in the fields of both religion and materialism. It is these people that are the true pioneers that will bring humankind to a higher level where science will realize a potential that very few people dream of today. Once science throws off the shackles of materialism, new doors will open, because then science will become much more open to receiving the ideas that the Ascended Masters are ready to release at any time. And it is extremely important to challenge the illusion that your loved ones die and that you lose contact with them. I know well that there are many charlatans, such as mediums of various kinds, who are seeking to take advantage of people. But you cannot use those as an excuse for not looking objectively at the potential to communicate with departed loved ones. As you have heard today, there are methods for doing this that do not require you to pay somebody and let somebody take advantage of you. It is something you can do and learn to do, and it is a safe way to do it. Now, I know very well that there are many people who will say, how can I know that this is real? But I would like to suggest that that is not necessarily the primary question to ask. The primary question to ask is, does it help you go through the process? And many people, I can tell you, have gone through the process of attempting to communicate with a departed loved one, and they have not actually made contact with that loved one, but they have still gone through a process in their own minds that has helped them move on. And this has value regardless of the question of reality. There is, of course, reality in that your loved ones are not dead and that it is possible to communicate with them as it is possible to communicate with us.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mother Mary and Kim Michaels, for being the vessel for her to communicate with us. And coming up after commercial break, we have Dr. Matthew McKay, renowned psychotherapist, publisher, and best-selling author of Seeking Jordan. We will be going into deeper questions about the purpose of life here on Earth and the purpose of the afterlife and reincarnation. So join us after commercial break. I am your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant on CRN, and you've just been listening to Kim Michaels at transcendencetoolbox.com.
Experience the romantic getaway you deserve at Maui's premier bed and breakfast, the Plantation Inn. With plantation-style architecture and decor combined with modern amenities such as dual rain showers and whirlpool hot tubs, guests relax in a tranquil oasis in the heart of Maui's historic Lahaina town. The inn is situated conveniently less than 2 blocks from Lahaina Harbor, as well as the famous Front Street, known for its range of shops, restaurants, gallery walks, and museums. The Plantation Inn is home to Gerard's Restaurant, voted Open Table's top most romantic restaurants in North America. Chef Gerard's contemporary island French cuisine consistently earns some of the highest ratings in Hawaii. Come discover why Hawaii Magazine readers named the Plantation Inn #1 best bed and breakfast in Hawaii. Visit theplantationinn.com or call us at 667-9225.
CRN listeners, when you come to Southern California, stop by a great restaurant, the Dresden Restaurant at 1760 North Vermont Avenue in Hollywood. Enjoy great entertainment, like the music of the legendary Marty and Elaine at the world-famous Dresden Restaurant. The Dresden was the location for the making of the movie Swingers. Now you can swing with stars Marty and Elaine. Plus, enjoy great food, too, like French onion soup, artichoke hearts, and many other great appetizers. Seafood, there's salmon, shrimp scampi, New Zealand orange roughy, halibut, Lake Superior whitefish, and specialties like veal marsala, piccata, and parmigiana. Plus, we've got a great roast rack of lamb, chicken piccata, and cordon bleu, and pasta dishes, too. Steaks, filet, New York, Chateaubriand for two. Much more, too, including pork chops, prime rib of beef, and an incredibly extra large cut of prime rib. It's the Dresden Restaurant, open for lunch Monday through Saturday and dinner Monday through Sunday. Check us out at 1760 North Vermont Avenue or call 323-665-4294.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
Do you drink really pure water? If you drink bottled water, you should know about the bottled water dirty little secrets. Plastic bottles come from oil products. The polycarbonate jugs contain bisphenol A, a synthetic estrogen that's raised health concerns. Bottled water dispensers quickly develop algae and bacteria and should be sanitized regularly. Have you ever cleaned your water dispenser? Are you ingesting algae and bacteria and synthetic estrogen? Here's the good news. Pure Water Science can replace that dirty, outdated bottled water cooler with a high-tech water purification system. The Pure Water Science system features a stainless steel tank that constantly monitors water quality. It guarantees your water is pure. It alerts you when service or filter changes are needed, and the multi-stage purification system removes organic and inorganic contaminants. The patented self-sanitizing feature eliminates algae and bacteria while it adds oxygen to your water, and it costs less than bottled water without the bottled water hassle. No more bottles to lift. Call now, 818-502-4191. Pure Water Science, 818-502-4191.
Okay, we're back with Dr. Matthew McKay, author of Seeking Jordan. Dr. McKay?
Yes.
All right.
Right.
Okay, I don't hear that buzzing so much anymore, the feedback with your phone. Kim, that was such an appropriate and amazing dictation. The Ascended Masters are always right on time. So, Dr. McKay, as you can see, we're no stranger to this type of topic on Divine Love Talk. I'm probably one of the few talk shows around that. About 95% of my shows deal with books on topics that I'm really interested in. So I feel very blessed to have this show on CRN. But now in this half hour, I'd like to talk about some of the things that you learned from Jordan. In particular, the purpose of matter. You said that it is to help consciousness grow, which is really, really profound. And you also talked about how our levels of consciousness affect this life and the afterlife. And you said something else that I thought was really amazing, or probably Jordan said it, that we do not see God because all of consciousness is God. Now, I've heard that, concept said in different ways, but I thought that this one really hones in on that. So if we can start with that topic of consciousness in terms of being able to contact loved ones and the quality and the level of material that we're able to receive, because clearly Jordan appears to be at a very high level of consciousness in terms of the quality of the information that you were able to receive from him.
Well, Jordan tells me that we are collectively, all of us, all of consciousness, all of the individual souls collectively together are the divine, are God.
Mm-hmm.
And we exist simultaneously as individual souls, but also part of the whole. And the way he describes it, it's like bees in a hive. So the individual souls are like the bees that go out and collect nectar And what we collect as individual souls is wisdom and knowledge. We go out and interact with the physical universe, and we learn from it.
Yes.
And we go back to the hive with all of our knowledge, all of our experience, all of what we've learned, and contribute it to the whole, to all of consciousness. And so we are constantly in this dance between our individual mission to learn and to grow, and our role or our involvement as part of all of consciousness, and we are bringing this knowledge to all of consciousness. Consciousness is not perfect.
Yeah.
It continues to evolve.
Yes.
The divine, God, all of us as collective consciousness continue to grow and evolve, and our individual lives are a necessary part of that. What Jordan tells me is that the universe, the physical universe, is created by consciousness, but it's like a play structure in which individual souls go out and we connect to and live in this physical universe. And we do that for a reason, because the universe gives us an opportunity to learn things we could not learn in the spirit world, that are not available to us in the life between lives and spirit world. So we go to a physical universe to have, among other really important things, pain.
Yeah.
Pain teaches us.
Imagine that.
Yeah, it's extraordinary concept that we come here for pain. We usually think about, well, we should be escaping pain. We should be running from it.
Exactly.
Our purpose of life is to be happy, to avoid pain.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite.
I was laughing. Look, I was laughing because I'm thinking there's no way you can come to Earth and not have pain. It's just
Exactly. And we have this false idea that somehow we come here to figure out how not to have pain, when in fact we come here to have pain, and in that pain are all the necessary lessons that we are going to take back to the spirit world, to all of consciousness. The way Jordan explains to me is that love is kind of the air that we breathe in the afterlife, and it is the energy that connects everything. It connects all of consciousness, and yet love there is effortless. It doesn't. It's communicated telepathically. There are no obstacles to love. Love simply is. It's the medium through which everything exists and communicates. But we come here in order to have a very different experience of love. We come here to learn how to love in the face of pain. Jordan tells me.
Wow.
That love here is so. We achieve it at such great cost.
Yes.
It's so hard. When you think, this is a silly example, but think about it. You come home to your partner or your children and you have a headache.
Yeah.
It's very hard to express love and your connection to that soul when you're in physical pain.
Sure.
You also are in emotional pain. Sometimes we feel rejected. Sometimes we feel hurt. Sometimes we feel scared. Sometimes we feel great sadness and loss. And through all of that pain, we have to find a way to love.
Wow.
And that's one of our core purposes in coming here, learning how to love with pain. And so it's really very different from what we've imagined.
Well, I thought that concept right there, it just brings so it's a profound perspective that creates this amazing shift, that can lift you out of these expectations that we have that really are designed to let us down. So if we can shift to that perspective that you're talking about, learning to love through pain and in spite of pain, then that in and of itself is worth the journey, rather than, like for me, I've been trying to figure out how on earth can I get off of Earth? How do I get out of this place and escape all of the pain? It was a real game changer for me reading your book.
And one of the things that we can learn to do is to ask the question, when I'm in pain, what is this here to teach me? Instead of how do I get rid of it, it's to have a different relationship to pain. That the pain shows up, the struggles show up in our life with specific lessons that we can learn from them. And so the question is, what can I learn from this?
Right. And, when you talked about the life review, and, you hear that from everyone who's had a near-death experience. And I don't know if Kim Michaels is still on the line, but I
Yeah,
know.
I'm here.
Okay, I know that there's a board. Your teachings call it the Karmic Review Board, and I think Jordan calls it something else, but it's the same thing, when I was reading it. And that's a tough one, because in his book, he talks about you got to look at all of the pain that you've caused other people, and the ripple effect. And I was thinking as I was reading that, wow, that has to be the toughest part of the afterlife, is sitting and looking at how you may have unintentionally hurt people. Like we're kind of aware of when we've done it intentionally or inadvertently, but unconsciously. So, Kim, I just wanted to bring you in on the afterlife discussion.
Yeah, but I think the saving grace there is that we don't look at it with the same state of consciousness we have now.
True. Yeah, that's
We look
very
at
true.
it from a wider perspective, so we don't have the same mechanism that we use now to condemn ourselves.
Well, that is a blessing, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's not as difficult.
Yeah. Well, Dr. McKay, what's your thought on that? Because I had a hard time, getting through that part. I was like, okay, let me hurry up and get on to the next part.
Well, let me say that my experience and what Jordan has told me is that, certainly there is no such thing as hell in the afterlife.
Right.
But what there is the experience of reviewing our lives and knowing its impact on everyone.
Yes.
And there's no judgment attached to it. It's not like you're experiencing yourself as bad or wrong.
Yeah.
But you're simply experiencing the truth of what is. That when every single, our life is composed of choices. All of our choices are part of what we're learning. We make choices, and then we see what happens when we do that.
Right.
We look at the consequences. And in the afterlife, we study those consequences, again, not just from our own perspective, but from the perspective of every single person. We feel their pain and their reaction to everything we've done throughout our entire lives. And not only do we feel their reaction at that moment in time, but we can feel how we impacted them over time. So it's an extraordinary lesson experience, and it's not available to us here. We can't really see how we impact other people. We can only kind of extrapolate and imagine it.
Right.
But in the afterlife, we can actually experience it as they experience what we've done.
Well, and
so it's powerful.
Yeah, that is a profound learning experience. Another thing I wanted to say about your book is from the very beginning of it, you tackled the whole loss of your son, with it being very tragic, him being murdered. Most families wouldn't have the consciousness that you had to seek answers to this tragedy from a much higher spiritual perspective. Most people are so bent on revenge and, making sure that the other person who did it pays for it. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Did they ever catch the people who murdered your son?
No, they never did. They have a pretty good idea of who did it, but they have
they can't prove it. Yeah,
near the evidence.
And see, for most families, they just suffer and suffer and suffer, endlessly when they feel like there's no justice for the tragic murder of their child. And I was really, really impressed with how you took it to a whole nother level as a grieving father. So I'd like to talk about how you were able to even be in that space, of forgiveness and, moving out of that wanting revenge.
My experience, and really Jordan has really insisted on helping me see it this way, is that the people that murdered him are engaged in their own process of learning. They've already learned a lot about how violence destroys one's emotional and spiritual life. They feel the darkness of how that violence is impacting them at every level, and they're learning from that.
Okay.
And they don't necessarily need the justice system to learn those lessons. Those lessons are being learned by the direct experience of what is happening in their lives now. and they're taking that lesson all the way through their lives. They'll take it into the next life, and that these are, and so the issue is not, are we going to get some form of civil justice? The issue is inescapably every soul and every choice we make as souls, we are learning from. They're learning from the choice they made to hurt Jordan. I am learning from the loss of Jordan. That's what we're doing here. We're all learning. That's the sole purpose of life, is to learn. And they're doing it as much as I'm doing it, as much as Jordan has done it.
Well, that's really beautiful. Now, I did say we were going to talk about reincarnation, and I do think that in some instances it is very important to be able to know the connection of a previous lifetime in terms of you being able to get your lesson for whatever pain or suffering you're going through in this lifetime, or why, a particular thing is affecting you so profoundly. And you found out some really amazing things about your previous lifetimes with Jordan that made sense to me when I finally got to that point in the book. So would you be willing to share that?
Yes, absolutely. I learned how to do past life and between life regressions, and so I've done that with other people. I've helped them look into past lives and how those lives contain lessons that may help them now, and also life between life regressions. And so I wanted to have that experience myself, and I went to see Ralph Metzner, who does past life and life between life regressions, and so we began to look at the question of, well, what has been going on in past lives that I've had? Have I had relationships to Jordan in those past lives? What kind of lessons have I been learning, and how do they impact this life? So my most immediate past life, I was a bookbinder, probably somewhere in England, and as I examined that life, and I could see where I lived in a certain little seaside village. I could see my children. I could see my wife. And Metzner asked me, well, now, who is your wife in this life? And immediately I knew the answer. I knew the answer like I know the street that I was born on. It just flashed to me, but I didn't like the answer. It felt strange and foreign. In fact, Jordan was my wife in that life, and it felt strange to have a relationship with him that would be so different. And And it turns out that my daughter in this life was also a daughter in that life.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was working on in that life and what I did is that after I lost Jordan, my wife in that life, I just shut him out of my mind. I would not. My wife's name in that life was Elizabeth. Shut her out of my mind. I'm not dealing with her. I'm not relating to her anymore. She's gone. I broke the connection and the cord of love that held us together, and wouldn't look at it. My two children left home relatively early, and I just shut them off. I actually never saw them again.
Wow.
And I ended up an old man with a collection of books that I helped to bind.
So your lesson was quickly before we go into break.
My lesson was that I dealt with loss by shutting off and disconnecting.
And
I still do that to some extent in this life, and I have to face that.
And you certainly did it with this book, Seeking Jordan, with Dr. Matthew McKay. We'll be back after commercial break, wrapping this up. I am your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, with my co-host, Kim Michaels, and you're listening to Divine Love Talk on CRN.
Federal tax fraud is set to hit $21 billion by 2016, up from just $6.5 billion 2 years ago. TransUnion just announced the launch of its Government Information Solutions Division to provide fraud, identity authentication, data breach response, and investigation services to help government agencies manage risk and reduce costs. Jonathan McDonald, Executive Vice President of TransUnion's Government Information Solutions Business Unit.
TransUnion's proprietary sets of credit, criminal, and public data, coupled with flexible analytics, help government agencies make informed decisions and ensure citizen safety.
Federal spending has skyrocketed, and government agencies are making significant investments to protect data entrusted to them.
TransUnion is well positioned to help government agencies identify fraudulent activities, detect when they are occurring, and investigate, prosecute, and prevent them from happening again.
For more, visit TransUnion's government blog feed or transunion.com/government.
Let me take just a moment or two, if I may, and talk about a great place to eat. That's right, for you folks anywhere in the eastern San Fernando Valley, drop into Bob's Big Boys. That's right, in Sun Valley at 8274 Sunland Boulevard. Now, everybody remembers the name Bob's. They're getting bigger and bigger every day. And little old Bob carrying the hamburger in his checkered overalls is the same Bob that you remember from back through the years. And, of course, if you want to go in for a great lunch, remember their classic burger, the original double-deck hamburger combination. Delicious 100% pure ground beef in 2 patties with American cheese, lettuce, and our famous Big Boy special sauce. The name is Bob, and I think when you go in, you'll say, by golly, I'm sure glad that I found this restaurant because it's good for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They've got all kinds of things, and all you have to do is remember. Bob's Big Boy in Sun Valley at 8274 Sunland Boulevard. It's a great place to eat.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644.
Okay, we're back wrapping this up on Divine Love Talk with Dr. Matthew McKay. What's your website in case people have questions and want to contact you, Dr. McKay?
It's www.seekingjordan.com.
Oh, that's easy. And you're going to want to run out and get that book. It's not a very big book, but it's a very profound book. I'd like to, you mentioned how we all come together, as members of a soul group, and that sometimes when we meet those members of our soul group in this lifetime, they can do great damage. Would you speak on that very quickly? Because I've certainly had that happen, recognizing someone and being very open and vulnerable because they're a member of my soul group.
Well, we reincarnate over and over and over again with members from our soul group, and we have different relationships to them in different lives. Sometimes we're husband and wife, sometimes we're brothers, sisters, sometimes we're adversaries even.
Yes.
And so these relationships change in each life, and it's like a little repertory theater. It's like we're the actors in the soul group, and we come and we have a new play and a new life, and we live that life out. But the problem is that members of our soul group have a special. We recognize them on some intuitive level,
yes.
And there's a special connection to those people, and with that connection, a trust.
Yes.
And it's also possible that soul group members, while they often support us, and there's deep love that's expressed in this life between soul group members. Those members, because we trust them, if they've really gone off the rails, they can hurt us profoundly, and
yes.
we don't, and we're more vulnerable to them, and we're more open to them, and we can suffer more damage from them because of that.
I thought it was important to point that out because there's probably not one of us who hasn't run into someone like that, and they've wreaked havoc in our lives. So just because your soul recognizes someone and you feel really good and safe with them in the beginning, you still need to use caution and kind of look at where they are in terms of their lifestyle right now before you decide to just bring them into your inner circle. You also said that we must learn to love with a love that holds everything. That's huge. Okay, can you explain that?
The love that holds everything is a love that holds the awareness that we in this planet will often lose our beloved.
Yes.
The beloved will be taken from us.
Yes.
And while that's an illusion on some level, because we never lose anyone, and all of the people we love are still with us and still connected, and we can actually still communicate with them on the other side. Still, the love of knowing everything is I love you, knowing that at any moment I can lose you here.
Yes.
And I hold you precious, and I hold this connection precious, knowing that at any moment it can be broken.
Wow.
And so those are the things that we live with on this planet, and they give love a special poignancy and also a special power.
I agree.
Because we love in the face of that.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Matthew McKay. Please run out and get that book, Seeking Jordan. Thank you so much, Kim Michaels, for that amazing dictation from Mother Mary. And thank you all for joining in. We'll be back next week with more of Divine Love Talk and Kim Michaels with his weekly message from the Ascended from the Ascended Masters. Okay, I'm your host, Dr. Parthenia Grant, signing off. And please contact me at divinelovetalk@gmail.com if you have questions or topics that you would like for us to cover on the show.
CRN Digital Talk Radio prides itself on being the station of every situation. And you can listen to us on nearly any platform and device. Download to your iPhone, Android, and BlackBerry episodes of What's Cookin'. And take Master Sommelier Michael Jordan with you to the wine shop so he can help you pick out that perfect bottle of wine. Stream episodes of the Sonoma Wine Report through our CRN app, TuneIn Radio, Nobex, Stitcher, UTunes, or AHA Radio, and start planning that unforgettable weekend in the wine country. They're in your corner on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and many other apps. And of course, you can always listen live through your local cable TV provider, as well as on our website at crntalk.com. For more information on where to listen to these great shows, along with many others, log on to crntalk.com and create your own listening experience today.
The radio channels. The radio channels. CRN.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew. The daughter of a Georgia man suspected of shooting 5 people to death before killing himself says that her father was a ticking time bomb. Lauren Hawes says that she and her 1-year-old daughter hid in a neighbor's house last night while her father, Wayne Hawes, killed 5 people. Authorities in rural southern Ohio are urging residents to be cautious as the search continues for whoever fatally shot 8 members of a family at 4 different properties.
We do not know whether we're talking about one individual or 2 or 3 or more.
Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine says they have been getting a lot of tips. 2 police officers shot in suburban Phoenix and a suspect is dead. Detective Seth Tyler is with the Chandler Police Department.
The second officer that arrived on scene did engage the suspect and that the suspect received the mortal wounds.
Both officers are hospitalized in stable condition. The Republican National Committee says its party's presidential nominee must earn a delegate majority.
At the RNC's spring meeting in Florida, Chairman Reince Priebus said the GOP will not hand the nomination to any presidential candidate who fails to win a majority of delegates. He said it doesn't matter how close a candidate comes if he doesn't claim the necessary 1,237 delegates.
And that report from White House correspondent Greg Clugston. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe has issued a sweeping